How are you doing? This is Alex. Now in this week's episode, we're going to be discussing accidents that our valets have gotten into. Now in these accidents, we usually have the customers go get an estimate. And if the estimate's reasonable, we'll just stroke a check and send it to them. But if we get an estimate and it is out of this world, our response will be, WTF, we're not paying for that. Now the first story comes at one of our popular restaurants where a customer comes in and he parks his Range Rover. Everything is good, no issues at all. In fact, we had them parked up front. If we have some of the nicer cars, we'll park them up front and let people see them as they come in and out of the restaurant. So when this guy leaves, he doesn't say anything, but later on we get a response that there is a scrape at least 2 feet long down the side, driver's side of his vehicle. I'm like, what in the world? So he sends me the estimate, and the estimate is probably close to $3,000 for this Range Rover. I look at the accident and I look at the damage and I'm like, this didn't happen in our parking lot. I find out where the car was parked, and it's actually parked right in front of the restaurant, and there's nothing to its right or left that could have caused this damage. So we look at the video cameras, and of course if the video camera's there, it's backed in so you don't see anything on this side of the car. You can only see what's on this side of the car. So the customer gets upset and he's adamant that we're responsible. But I explained to him that there's no way possible. In fact, when the car came in, we reversed into the parking spot, and that was it. All that's on the side of it are bushes, and at the height of the bushes, they were only 2 feet tall. This damage was over 5 feet onto the side of the vehicle. So he got very upset. He was pissed off. He tried to complain to everybody, but this is something that we didn't do, and hell no, are we going to pay for this damage? Now, this next accident happened and we were at fault. Our valet, Kyle, I believe, backed into the podium and cracked a taillight on a Toyota Sequoia. There's no question about it. We apologize. When I see it, I'm like, okay, it's a clean hit. All I did was crack the taillight. I can order a new taillight. Takes me 10 minutes to install it myself at the lady's job. But I get an estimate from this lady, and it's $1,800. I'm like, what in the world is $1,800? She's like, it's $1,800 estimate from the Toyota dealership, which is already our nightmare. We hate it when people go to the dealership because they want to mark everything. So I want to see what's involved. She says the tailgate, the bumper, the tail light, all this stuff. And I'm like, I was there. I saw it. It only hit the tail light. So I had to go and see this vehicle myself. So I had to drive down south, look at this vehicle, and then I realized that this lady is pointing out everything unrelated to the accident, but she's pointing out a door ding here, a dent here, all this pre-existing damage, and you can tell because it was dusty. You can tell it had been there for a while, but this lady was very adamant. I talked to the dealer. The dealer came out. I just said, hey, does it look like all this accident happened at one time? And the dealers like to pull out of it and say, hey, we don't want to get involved with it. We don't want to make a determination. But common sense would show that obviously if a taillight's broken, there's no way there's a dent on the other side of the thing that was completely related to this. So I had to stand strong on our morals and tell this lady we are not going to be responsible. We'll replace the taillight, and that's what we did. And I think that ended up costing $180 instead of $1,800. Now, this next accident happened when I was out of town. I get a phone call, and the valet was very nice because he knew I was out of town and he was trying to avoid having to give me a call. But I was in another country, and the time change, it was like 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the morning when this happened. But I still answered the phone and tried to handle the situation. This happened when the valet, again, was parking a Mercedes ML 320, and when he was trying to start the car, it wouldn't start. It was a very old car. It had 200 and something thousand miles on it. So when he finally started the car up, he puts it in reverse, and when he puts it in reverse, doesn't realize a car had pulled in right behind him. When he backed up, crunch! And it was minor. It was really a minor damage. The Lexus, it broke the front license plate frame, which we replaced, $30. But the back of the Mercedes ML, minor damage, but nothing major. I tell the gentleman to please get a quote, let me know, I'll be back in town next week and we'll handle it when I get back. He wanted to call the police and all of these different things. So I said, you know what, rest assured, we're going to handle it, but let us just see what's what. So I get an estimate, it's almost $3,000, it's $2,300. this vehicle is maybe at the most worth maybe $3,000. So there's no way we're going to pay for damage that supersedes or almost equals the value of the vehicle. On top of it, he was replacing the tailgate. He was replacing the bumper. He was replacing all of these parts with OEM parts. OEM parts on a car that had 200,000 miles. So I explained to the gentleman, I said, sir, you have over 200,000 miles on my car. He's like, how do you know that? Because when he went to the Mercedes-Benz dealership, he didn't realize that they put his mileage on the estimate. So he was very pissed off about that. I can now hop over to Kelly's Blue Book and see what the value of his car was, and I think it registered at $2,100, and he was pissed. I said, if you give me a more realistic estimate, then we'll get it taken care of. Otherwise, here's a check for $300 to fix the surface damage that's on your bumper. You want to take a guess what he took? Yes, he took the check for $300. Now, this next one was funny. We were at a private event, and again, what did we just talk about before? Curbed wheels. And curbed wheels is when we run up against the side of a curb and we scratch the side of the wheel. Well, this one was a little bit different. It was from a Subaru WRX or Subaru, some type of Impreza or something of that nature. So the guy's like, your guys damaged my custom wheel and all of this, and you guys need to pay to get it replaced. And I think it was like $400 and something to replace this wheel. So I said, send me a picture. He sends me this picture, and I actually start laughing. I said, sir, is that Plasti Dip on your wheel? He's like, excuse me? I said, is that Plasti Dip coated wheel? He said, yes. I said, if you bring that wheel to the office, we will respray it right now for you. And in fact, it doesn't even look like it damaged the wheel at all. It damaged the rubberized coating on it, and it peeled it up. You can peel it off all in one section and respray it. So this guy wanted $400 for a new wheel, and I'm like, I'll give you a can of paint, and the paint costs $5. I don't think he was happy, but that's the most logical thing that could have been done. I said, if it gets even worse, I'll spray it for you, but he didn't want to. He's like, let me just do it myself. I gave him a can of Plasti Dip. Now, the final story is actually kind of serious, but it's not really our fault. A lady pulled in a Cadillac CTS. I don't think it was a CTS-V. I think it was just a CTS. And the valet tickets the customer. He's getting ready to get into the car, and all of a sudden, another car comes in and slams into the back of the CTS. I keep calling it CTS-V, but a CTS Cadillac. That person was in a Nissan Versa and really messed up their front pretty good. So my valet takes pictures, doesn't call me, just text messages me the pictures. So I see this damage, I see that damage, and I freak out. I'm not happy when we have accidents that are this heavily involving two vehicles. It usually doesn't happen, or surprisingly. You would think it would, but it really doesn't happen as much as you think. So I call the valet immediately. I'm like, what in the world happened? He's like, yeah, some customer came in off the driveway and hit another car. So I said, we're not at fault? They're like, no, I don't think so. Anybody in the car? They said just the person that was in the other white car, but nobody was really hurt or anything like that, and I think she's fine. So I'm like, whew. Once that happens, then I can be logical and say, okay, this is what needs to happen. But a lot of times when I see stuff like that and I get a text message and I don't get a phone call first, I freak out. So these are some of the stories that we have that we've gotten these crazy estimates, and we're like, you know what? WTF, we're not going to pay for that.